remembers it being quite obvious that I'm a huge fan of this whole painting miniatures thing. Something I don't often have cause to talk about on the channel is my second love, which is video games, both old and new. I'm an avid collector of retro games for various platforms, and I continue to enjoy gaming to this day on more modern platforms such as PC and Xbox Series S. So I wanted to take the time and make a little video shouting out some of my favourite video games that relate to tabletop wargaming. Now obviously if you're a fan of one of these particular franchises I mention, my picks are probably going to seem painfully obvious to you. But if you're someone who's just maybe curious about that setting but doesn't know if they'll enjoy it, they want to check out the wargame down the line, video games are a great icebreaker for getting into that first. So before we dive in, as usual, I'd like to ask you to consider giving the video a cheeky like, maybe consider subscribing to the channel, and if you really want to support the content and help me keep making these videos, check out the links in the description for my affiliate links and my Patreon. So let's dive into some video games. If you're curious about Infinity or other cyberpunk settings, Deus Ex: Mankind Divided is a brilliant game for delivering a well thought out and beautiful cyberpunk world. Set mostly in Prague in a futurized alternate version of 2029, the game features a really nice blend of shooting, stealth and RPG elements. It's pretty too, and far less of a resource hog than Cyberpunk 2077, meaning even folks with older hardware don't necessarily need to miss out. Now I recommend this over Cyberpunk for a number of reasons, but mainly because the European setting of Mankind Divided feels like it more echoes the Eurocentric writing style of Infinity's creators Corvus Belli. The visual styling also feels pretty similar. Mankind Divided is a great game. It can be punishingly hard in areas and woefully trivial in others, but all in all the game feels slick, frantic and future cool in all the ways Cyberpunk should. Deus Ex: Mankind Divided is available on PS4, Xbox One, PC, most platforms to be honest. I wouldn't even be surprised if it gets a Switch port one day. But if you prefer a slower, more considered gameplay experience, but you still have that burning curiosity for Infinity, XCOM 2 is another great game that will really scratch those itches. The alien race in the game gives strong Infinity Combined Army vibes, except, well, in XCOM 2 the aliens are winning their war, whereas Combined Army aren't doing the best job of theirs. But the fact that the whole game is clandestine operations based only cements that Infinity vibe even further. You'll take on the role of a team of 4 in this strategic combat game, giving orders based around movement, combat and interaction with features on the map. Your characters level up, increase in skill, and also die permanently. XCOM 2 is very heavily moddable, and it's also easy to tailor to your difficulty needs. The gameplay is engaging, and to be honest, for a strategy game, it's actually really pretty too. Again, XCOM is available on PS4, Xbox One, Xbox X and S, PC, Switch. It's available in a lot of formats. When we get to the Warhammer 40k games, things actually get a little bit more complicated, because I believe we're yet to see the best, at least in the fast-paced and frantic section of the offering. Warhammer has been plagued by simply terrible third-party games due to the extremely relaxed approach GW takes with who it gives its IP to for video games. The recent Necromunda FPS, for example, was terrible and really buggy. The Dark Angels Space Hulk first-person shooter game was awful. Of course, we do have absolute classic bangers like Space Marine that you're seeing here now, but that's getting a new game. Yeah, if you missed the recent announcement, Space Marine 2 is actually on the way. On top of this, we also have Darktide, the Left 4 Dead-like high-intensity shooter kind of game. I suppose Vermintide-like is more appropriate. Centred around an Imperial Guard squad and slated for release spring 2022. Given the pedigree behind these two games, I think they both at once represent the best hope of a truly great, high-action 40k game. Fingers crossed. For now, if you're Warhammer curious, my recommendation, as you could probably figure out by now, is Space Marine. It's available on Steam, but it was also released on like Xbox 360 and PS3 back in the day, so if you still have one of those handy, you'll be good to go. If you want a slower paced 40k experience, then you've probably heard of the Dawn of War games, and Dawn of War 2 would be the one to go for in my opinion. Whilst the first game is really just a little dated, it's a fine game, it just feels really old to play. But the third game is, well, it's a bit of a mess, bordering on unplayable according to some people. Dawn of War 2 manages to hit that sweet spot of good, clean, reasonably modern feeling gameplay, but still harking back to that time when real-time strategy games were at their highest and, you know, giving you that sort of classic real-time strategy vibe. The modding community has also done a serious amount of investment on Dawn of War 2 with mountains of mods covering things such as new game modes, expanded unit availability, visual customization, and quite a lot more to boot. Unlike other games, I feel Warhammer needs less introduction, so I won't go into the universe here, but suffice it to say, Dawn of War is absolutely 40k at its silliest and most over the top, and Warhammer of any flavour, in my opinion, is at its best when it doesn't take itself too seriously. Dawn of War 2 is available on Steam and apparently also has a Linux release. Again, this is another section that I can't maybe give the same depth of recommendation to. I don't really follow Warhammer Fantasy or any of Warhammer's fantasy games, so I've never felt a strong urge to play its video games either. However, going by recommendations of people who do play these games, and huge thanks to Discourse Miniatures for the footage that I'm using here, combine that with critic scores and the general buzz of the community, I feel somewhat confident in making a couple of recommendations. If you want fast-paced action, Vermintide 2 is probably the place to go. And actually, this is one I'll probably pick up myself next time it's on sale. Again, it has that Left 4 Dead Endless Hordes vibe to it, but it's centered more around melee combat, which creates a really interesting dynamic in my opinion. However, if frantic hack and slash isn't your thing, then Total Warhammer as a series is also a great recommendation. Now, interestingly with the Total Warhammer games, they are kind of all connected, so it sort of doesn't matter which one you go for. Kind of just pick the one you want to play and play it. There's going to be modernizations as you go forward, and that's kind of part and parcel of an extended series that's been going on for this long. So if you want the most modern experience, probably start with Total War 3. But nonetheless, the fact that Total War Warhammer 1 and 2 are still £40 RRP games on Steam, despite being years old, is probably a good indicator of how popular they still are to this day. They're just good, proper Warhammer Fantasy, massed combat, rank and flank games. You'll find all of them on Steam, of course, with Vermintide 2 also having a release on Xbox One, Series S, Series X, PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, so all the modern consoles basically. Battletech is a tough game to make recommendations for, because Battletech has amazing games that are based directly on the IP itself. The two most current ones being Harebrained Schemes' 2018 Battletech game and MechWarrior 5 by Piranha Games. Both of these games offer truly stunning experiences set directly in the universe of Battletech, and offering fast-paced action and chilled-out strategy game flavours. But both have similar graphical styles too, which creates a really nice feeling of coherency between them, despite them being from different studios. And as well as being truly excellent games full of their own merits, they're also exceptionally popular with the existing Battletech fanbase. If you're Battletech curious, then obviously check out Battletech or MechWarrior 5. Check out any of the older historical Battletech games as well. However, instead of waxing lyrical about those for too long, I decided I'm going to use this section to shine a light on what I feel is one of the most hidden of hidden gems in gaming history, which should also appeal to Battletech fans. Cast your eyes back to the Super Nintendo and meet Front Mission 2 Gun Hazard, a deliciously 90s mech action RPG where you play as Albert, a Wanzer pilot trying to protect the president from an insurrection. In this game, you'll get to action platform your way through side-scrolling levels, both in and out of your Wanzer. By the way, that's the game's word for a mech. Between missions, you can upgrade weapons, armour, jump jets, boosters, your pilot's equipment, all sorts. It's a truly complete, deep and wonderful experience, and it's a game very close to my heart. Now, before you rush off to go research this game, there is an important point to discuss. The official cartridge release of the game is Japanese region only, and the physical game is only in Japanese language. Now, I happen to collect Japanese Super Nintendo, or Super Famicom as it should be called, games, so buying this was a no-brainer for me, and I own the original cartridge of it. But that's not going to help you too much if you don't understand Japanese. So, there do happen to be a couple of solutions. There's a fantastic fan translation out there. If you have a Retron 5 console, you can actually patch the original game, and then you can play it from the English patched version on your Retron 5 console. But if you don't, there is also an English patched ROM file that will run on any Super Nintendo emulator. A very quick Google of Gun Hazard or Front Mission 2 Gun Hazard English translation will find this for you really quickly. I know because I found it with a really quick Google. So there you have it, folks. That's the main games that we cover on this channel, and a couple of video game recommendations to go with each. Now, if I have one takeaway, honestly, from writing the script and making this video, it's that it's a damn shame that Infinity doesn't have its own video game. Games like Deus Ex and XCOM 2 really show us just how cool an Infinity game could be. Corvus Belli, if you're watching, I don't know if it's in the budget or if it's even something that's been considered, but we'd really like an Infinity game. The thing is, it's just such a strong IP with such brilliant identity, and yeah, I'm probably biased by the fact that it's my favourite game, but it just would work. So folks, do give these a look at. Aside from the Warhammer Fantasy ones, which I did mention at the time, these are all games I personally own and have put extensive time into. So my recommendations on them really are genuine, and I'd love for you to check these out and let me know what you think in the comments. Some of these games really are absolute treasures, and you'll have an amazing time playing them. But that's all from me for this one, so I hope you enjoyed something a little bit different. Thank you so much for watching, and happy gaming, I guess. I normally say happy hobbying, so I suppose that's the right way to sign off. I'll see you in the next one, folks. Thanks a lot, and bye-bye for now.